Today is Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is our recap of Survivor 47, Week 11.
This episode's titled Flipping the Wind Switch, and that was spoken by Andy. We were just sure it was going to be Kyle.
I even wrote Kyle.
I did too. I had to go back and change it when Andy said it. Previously on Survivor, Andy's choosing victims, and then we get a recap of Sue's hidden immunity idol and Rachel's hidden immunity idol. And I'm thinking, what's happening? What's going on here? Why do we need to see those?
Somebody's going to play it.
Yeah. And then we see the Tuku 3, Sue, Caroline, and Gabe, talking about going to Final 3. And then Kyle decided to make a move. And then Caroline decided to target Gabe too. And Gabe's gone. Okay, we're back at Beka night 18. Sam and Kyle hug. Kyle tells us he had to draw a line in the sand. Gonna trust no one, and he's gonna win them all, because they're gunning for him.
Well, several people hugged him, and I guess
Rachel and Teeny did too,
how hard
huh?
it was, for him to vote Gabe.
Uh-huh.
But Andy tells us all he has to do is just decide who's going next, and he can just make it happen.
Just that simple. But for Sue, she is bummed. Gabe is gone, and she was blindsided by that. She's worried she can't trust Caroline anymore.
Yep, everybody knew but her.
Especially can't trust Kyle, now that she's listing people she can't trust. And she wants to get revenge for Gabe.
She tells Rachel, I'm just glad it wasn't me.
Day 19 comes in with choppy seas and rain. Kyle's tending the fire, and Sue tells us that they had a really tough night. There was blowing rain, and she felt all alone because Gabe, her security blanket, wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So literally and figuratively, she was feeling alone, exposed.
And that it was freezing all night. So, at least they have rice to eat, which I'm sure at least helped warm them up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Caroline seems eager to talk with Sue. She's trying to convince her that today will be better. Sue didn't believe her, though.
And it's very important that we talk.
Mm-hmm.
And Sue's like, I'm okay. But Caroline continued, and she needed to explain to Sue what happened.
What did you think of what she said?
She reassured her right up front, I'm loyal to you. And, she explained why bringing Gabe along just wasn't going to work for her.
Right. She needed to have control of her own game, she was telling Sue. I thought she was really playing to what Sue would want to hear, too.
Mm-hmm.
Not having Gabe bring her, but her being responsible, Caroline being responsible for getting herself to the end.
Well, and I don't think we'd heard Caroline talk about before about needing to succeed for basically her inner child, and to prove that she wasn't a failure, that she could finish something.
How awesome to have had that dream since you were 5, and then to get this opportunity.
Yep.
And she pledges Final 2 with Sue.
Yep, and Sue respected, once again, that Caroline, as well as Gabe, extended an olive branch. Mm-hmm. And so, it looked like everything was okie dokie again. I wonder how Gabe felt about that when he watched it. It's like, that's as long as you could stay angry for me, Sue.
Your plot of revenge didn't last very long.
But she won't care, because by now she knows that he'd have dropped her if it suited him. So
we see Andy, Teeny, and Rachel talking and wondering how the damage control's going to go with Sue.
Well, and they walk up, Sue and Caroline, and they decide to form a Final 5.
Underdog Alliance.
Yep.
It has a name.
And they agree to lock it in to Final Five. Get rid of Kyle, Sam, and Genevieve before they turn on each other. So,
Do you believe that's true?
I believe some of them believed it in the moment, but I don't know that it will work out to be that way.
Well, when you've got people like Teeny and Sue that play just from emotion, I can tell you that that's not going to last. They'll get bent out of shape over something, and there's no way they'll stay with it.
Yep, that's often the case in Survivor.
And who does Sue want to target?
The same person she's been wanting to target,
Kyle. Teeny's all about getting to the Final Five.
But who's worried that those five will come after them? Kyle, Sam, and Genevieve.
Yeah, they seem to be having that.
They're aware.
The mirror conversation going on at the same time, the way it's portrayed in the edit.
And we get a little more insight into Genevieve that she tells us she feels no alliance to anyone. And that connections give you power, and she doesn't want it. She's still... So it did greatly affect her that Keyshawn was hurt and said something about it. So... She certainly wasn't a robot in that instance.
Still isn't, because she's still hurting from it.
Yes. And
although she says she would prefer to be the villain going forward.
Yeah, well, I think she thinks that means that nobody will trust her and she won't have to deal with their emotions. I think she can deal with her own, though she's struggling.
Yeah, I like this recap from each of their perspectives. So you get that from Jen and then from Sam. Sam's talking about, well, my game, I lost all my momentum, all my power when Sierra got voted out.
Yeah.
But now that he's transitioned to being fully open and honest, he says, he's getting some of that power back.
He's like, who knew that would work if you approach people with honesty? Huh, go figure. Maybe that's a good life lesson for
that.
him.
And pineapple and kiwi can both be good to eat.
Doesn't always work, but okay.
Yeah.
Kyle had a hard time separating his emotions as well from the game. And he finally just realized you have to do that out here. You have to. And that there is a potential of his family seeing him as someone he didn't want to be, but I think they know him well enough that they won't. And besides, he never did really push that.
I really thought this was where he was going to give the title too, because he was talking about in the younger years he had to be more on the attack, I guess, and that he had turned that off. But now I expected him to say he was going to flip that switch back on, but that was not the case.
Wow, Andy's already going, wow, Final 8. This will all come together in a week.
Yeah.
He thinks he can crush this game.
Right.
I don't think that's going to work for him, but who knows? Maybe. And then the dreaded boat shows up.
All right, we got another journey. Only one person is going to be able to go on the journey, and if they can't make a decision, they'll pull rocks, and the purple rock will be the one that gets to go. And most of them opt out. They don't even want to go on the journey. But both Genevieve and Sam say that they want to go. And because of that, Rachel says, well, I got to see if I can block them. And sure enough, she ends up pulling the rock. So she gets to go on the journey. What did you think of this one?
I thought it was exciting and intense because it's really hard when you know you're on a time limit. That always freaks me out.
Right.
To do a test.
So
test alone freaks me out.
Right.
But to be timed.
So instead of going to an island, she ends up on a floating platform. Yep. And there's a puzzle there. And there's, I forget what it was. It was like 6 or 7 different lanes and that many colored balls. And she's just got to sort them all into the same color in each column. And then she'll be able to retrieve a box that has an advantage in it. And to start the timer for this one, I love this actually. Instead of the hourglass, which we've seen over and over and over again, there's a weight, effectively like an anchor tied to a rope. She's got to toss the first one over, and then there was, 3 or 4 more after that were also tied. And so while this thing's sinking, it's pulling those I guess it's pulling them off. Maybe that's why she had to be that far out. They had to be that depth to pull all of that, the full length of those ropes out.
I thought that she would feel the impact of those when they hit the full length underneath the water. I thought, well, wouldn't that kind of shake the platform to have one side when it reached its limit and the rope had to catch?
Or when the weight left the platform, that would cause it to rock potentially too. So they had to work all that out. Kierhofer and his team had to get the lengths right for the depth and find somewhere that had enough depth that they could work with it and measure out the rope and make sure that that system, that each successive weight would pull off the next one.
Yeah, it did stop though, right? It didn't just keep going down, right? It did stop and was still attached to the platform.
What? At the end?
The rope.
No. The puzzle table was the last thing that the rope was attached to.
I don't mean that. I mean the anchors that were thrown over.
Right. The weights.
And then it triggered the next anchor and the next anchor.
Why? They had to be connected to pull like that. I'm not sure what your question is. Sorry.
Okay. Well, so, yeah, that was my question, actually, were they still, or did it just trip something for the others to start?
It was my understanding, I could have got it wrong, but that each one pulled the next one down.
Okay.
The end of the first rope was attached to the next weight, so it pulled it off and started
the next.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was busy watching her try to do it and cheering for her.
Yes. Well, and she just did pull it out. Just maybe 2 seconds,
at least they
a
made
second
it
and a
look
half.
that way.
Yeah. And she was able to get an advantage. It turns out it's a block of vote advantage.
But come on, it's TV, so wouldn't they make it look that way, whether it was that close or not?
And they can't control that. It's all dependent on how quickly she can solve it. Now, they could have a rough...
You can in the edit, can't you? I mean, you could edit it to where it looked like it took longer than it actually did or something, maybe. Maybe not. It looked real.
Yeah, I suppose with some jump cuts, you could have made it look like that and gotten her reaction when it actually pulled the puzzle table over the side. Anyway, I liked it.
Curiosity.
That was very creative, and
it was.
I enjoyed the tension. The visible tension, she could see it, she could feel it all unraveling, the time going by as she raced to solve that little puzzle and sort the balls there. So she ends up with a block of vote advantage, and the last time it can be used is at final 6.
All right.
And she's wondering, does me getting this advantage end up being a path to the end to win, or will this be my demise? So it was a good example of how even when you do win and come out, you're still struggling a little bit.
Well, and she's well aware that whatever she tells them back at camp, somebody's not going to believe her.
Absolutely.
And maybe
we get
nobody,
to see that.
You just don't know. So.
Yeah, so she gets back. This is all on day 19. It's a 2-day cycle in the game, 19 and 20, and she gets welcomed back, and she's talking about how it absolutely is a lose-lose to do these kind of things, but she thought it was more important and worth the risk to block Sam and Genevieve, and that's some pretty intense gameplay, and she was willing to take that risk, and she delivered. So I think she comes out way ahead on this, even though it is a lose-lose proposition, like she said.
Well, and she's in the majority alliance, so, you know.
And her plan was to keep it 99% honest, which is always a good plan when you know you need to lie. Include as much truth as possible.
Well, I thought it was a lie that could be believable.
Sam immediately did not buy it.
Yep. And even if it had been true, he wouldn't have.
Right.
But she tells Sue and Carolyn right away.
Yep.
Once again, she earns Sue's trust. Mm-hmm. So now Sue trusts Rachel and Carolyn. And then she does tell Andy and Sue, not Sue, Andy and
Teeny.
Mm-hmm. as
I
well.
like their discussion. And Rachel asked Sue and Carolyn, do you think the Underdog 5 alliance is legit? Sue immediately said, well, the three of us are. But I think Caroline said, yeah, I think it's there.
Well, I don't.
And Caroline said that she was happy that Rachel had the advantage because that raised Rachel's threat level, and that made Rachel a good shield for Caroline.
Yep, she's still strategizing.
And next we see Rachel talking to Teeny and Andy and telling both of them that she ended up with an advantage.
So I think that keeps her safe, at least for now, for this vote. The more they think on it, though, it could have ill effects for her.
Teeny tells us that having that alliance with Andy and Rachel has given her some solace after she felt so betrayed by Genevieve. And she likes this alliance and tells us that it's got her feeling good again. What did you think in the next scene where we see Genevieve pitching an idea to Rachel?
I think she's just grasping at straws, seeing who she might can convince, but good on her. She's got to do that.
Yeah, it was absolutely the right thing to do. Why not take advantage of that and
Absolutely.
say, hey, can I pitch you an idea? Would you consider possibly targeting Sue or Andy?
Andy, yeah.
Yeah.
She got nothing to lose to do
Because
that.
they are being brought to the end. Genevieve is basically saying, look, Sue and Andy are goats.
They're not playing, they're just being carried.
So that was some interesting additional insight into what the perception of Andy might be. There's a lot of talk in the listener feedback last week that maybe he's not being portrayed in the best possible light as a huge threat, even though he's got all these confessionals where he's talking about how strategic he is and how he's in a position to crush everyone.
Well, that would have just made me want to get rid of Genevieve more.
Well, and it
She's
did spark.
strategizing.
It did spark that thought with Rachel. Obviously, Genevieve is a big target, maybe even a better target than Kyle, who actually, in the scheme of things, is really only viewed as a challenge beast. He doesn't seem to have any social threat acumen in the context of the game.
Even he admitted he had to pick that up, that part of his game now. But Rachel goes right and tells Andy, and boy, he's ready to get Jen out.
He's immediately, saying that she had targeted him before, and so...
And he's confident that he can make that happen.
And they chose to show us that for a reason, I'm sure.
All right, day 20, immunity challenge.
Classic. You got to balance a table, keep it balanced. It's got a rope attached to it. And you got to stack blocks, and you got to spell out the word immunity with the blocks and get back without tipping over the blocks and step on the platform.
And Jeff's being a poet. He said they're a little worse for wear, but the smiles are still there.
Yeah. So we get a little bit of backstory because it's day 20 and it's obviously taking its toll on them.
Yep, and Kyle's just happy to have food on the table for his family. Sue is emotional because she believes she always believed she could do this, and she's doing it, which triggers Andy, and he takes the opportunity to of course, he kind of compared her to him, which to me wasn't even close to what happened with him back on day 3 or whatever it was.
Not even remotely.
Yeah, I didn't get that comparison so much, but...
Well, Sue's emotional. Andy was clearly emotional, so
Yeah.
I guess they had that in common. Maybe that was...
But it taught him to, he gained some backbone and stability, and he's going to take that forward in life. And
he's talking to future jury members that are standing there beside him.
Exactly. So, working the jury.
Okay.
All right, the challenge.
Yep, Genevieve first to drop, but she won't be the only one.
Nope, over and over again, actually.
Sweet.
Wonder how long that took.
Out of the gate, Sam and Rachel were moving quickly, and Kyle and Teeny were being slow and steady. And then we see Caroline drop next. And there's a bit of a race between Sam, Rachel, and then Genevieve for the 8th and final block. And then Genevieve drops, Sam drops, and Rachel drops, which is exactly how this challenge has historically gone. So the lead flips over to Teeny and Kyle. Then Kyle promptly drops. Probst declares Teeny's in the lead, and then Sue, and then Andy, and so Teeny drops.
And on and on and on until Rachel wins.
Big drop montage in there, too. Yeah.
I was sure cheering for Kyle.
Yeah, me too.
But, I like Rachel too. And so, of course, she was in no danger. But she pulled it out. Kyle was so close behind.
Rachel tells Probst when he's asking her how she was able to do it that she channeled her husband Derek and his
ability to be
patience.
patient.
Yeah.
Patience.
And then we get a quick confessional from Teeny on the way out saying Kyle has got to go.
Well, and she's been waiting to take him out just like Sue. So it's like, oh, Kyle. But Rachel was thrilled to win.
Yep.
That was a big thing for her.
Yep, she gets the good job Rachel's when they get back to camp, and she goes, well, yeah, I don't know if they mean it or not, but it's still nice to win.
Yeah, but the thing is that Rachel tells us Kyle's the obvious vote, but, it's also could be a good time to take out Genevieve or Sam.
Yes,
And I was like,
we were
yes,
hopeful.
yes.
We both had Genevieve to go.
Yep. And
Not Sue, though. Sue said, nope, today's Kyle's day.
well, even Genevieve said she'd like for Kyle to stay, but she had no power.
And we see Genevieve and Sam talking strategy and about how having Kyle gone is not good for their game.
Yep. Yeah, because, Sam thinks he's the next biggest threat after that.
I forgot Teeny was there with him, but she wasn't agreeing with him at all. Teeny's like, nope, Kyle, I'm not willing to target anyone else.
Well, and Sam tells us he wants Teeny to go after Andy. He wants to get Andy and then Teeny. And now Kyle is a little late to start playing
Gotta try a social game. Andy's talking to him, and Andy's like, hey, Kyle, you got anything, bud? You got any power here? And Kyle was truthful with him. He said no.
Andy tried to convince the others, but it wasn't very convincing.
Mm-mm.
His numbers especially.
Yeah, it didn't work with Caroline at all, did it? She said your numbers are baloney.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't say it to him.
No, but she said it in confession.
He was trying to explain the probability, and it wasn't going over well. He was not winning hearts or minds.
And Teeny didn't seem to care that Andy or Rachel wanted Jen first.
I did think Andy made one great point because he flipped over. He stopped with all the numbers, pushing the numbers, the probabilities, and said, look, Kyle's going to be here, and he's going to make fires, and he's going to talk about, I think it was Shania. Yeah, Shania. He said, and that must be Kyle's wife. He said, he's basically going to be here, he's going to make fire, and he's going to talk about Shania. Andy's essentially saying, look, Kyle is not a social threat. We can target someone else.
Well,
and
he gave it what he had.
Did you say that why Caroline was worried?
I did not, but of course she was worried that if Sue has really been after Kyle. So, and after what happened with the Gabe vote, Caroline could not risk.
Well, she's worried, about messing the trust up with Sue.
Yes, because if she does something like that a second time against Sue, knowing how much Sue wants Kyle gone, that could be a showstopper. Then she'd have to get rid of Sue, or Sue would get rid of her.
We check in with Rachel one more time before they head out, and Rachel's telling us this is the perfect time to get Genevieve. And cut to Teeny saying it would be dumb not to get Kyle. Well, I had a little bit of hope going in that Genevieve might be able to go, but we haven't seen Rachel have much, if any, success in calling a shot and directing a vote.
Well, I wouldn't know what to do with getting a vote off right anyway. I haven't had one all season, and I probably will not break the pattern now. But I was hoping maybe, because I've been voting for who I wanted to go. So I was thinking that tonight. Maybe I should quit voting for who I want to go.
Mine was even simpler than that. It was, she's been targeted, and they had her as the backup vote to Gabe. So now that they got Gabe, maybe they'll go after Genevieve. Tribal Council, night 20.
Didn't work either. Okay.
Probst is trying to prompt them into the discussion with some statements about, and questions around how voting changes as the power shifts to the jury. How does that affect your decisions?
Yeah, and Sam doesn't want to, he wants to vote out people he doesn't want to go to the end with. And then they discuss, well, there's different kinds of threats. Who's a threat? There's a difference, Rachel tells us. Sam sees something as one threat, where she might see something else as a bigger threat.
Yep. Kyle catches a question there, and he says, yeah, I'm in the hot seat, and I'm absolutely a physical threat, but physical threats don't equal wins.
But am I a social threat? The winners are social.
You know what was really interesting right here? Andy chimed in, and he started off by saying, I lied to Sierra and Saul and Gabe.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
I thought I could imagine just seeing Sierra like, yeah, well, you're not getting my vote either, dude.
Yeah.
Voted for me, and you're bragging about it.
Yeah, he was essentially. That just didn't seem. That was seemed like extremely poor jury management. I don't know if that was a byproduct of an edit, but
maybe he thought, I'm the one that got you. Give me credit for it and give me respect.
Right. Cheer for me as I vote you out and lie to you.
I don't think it went over that way.
Cheer for me as I open a coconut.
I didn't see any cheering going on.
No, I don't think he got the reaction that he was hoping for there. Yep, like you said, Teeny was talking about the different types of threats, the physical, the social, and the underdogs.
Well, the outward threats and the people who are sneaky. Genevieve.
Yeah, speaking of Genevieve, Probst asked her, are you displeased or are you thinking? What is the face you're making right now? And she says, well, I heard my name a lot. And once you get stamped a threat, it's hard to wash that off.
Yeah.
That was a good turn of phrase.
That was, yes.
Yeah. So Probst wants them to regret giving away their shots in the dark, so he hits Andy with that question. And Andy basically says, no, I'm not concerned. Kyle's continuing to try to pitch the importance of recognizing different kinds of threats.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was working even to me. And Sam comes right back with Kyle's the obvious target. But he does make good point. He wasn't persuading anyone. And but Genevieve is still concerned because she said she didn't think it would be a dog pile on Kyle, though it kind of was. But she was obviously still hoping.
Yeah, and Rachel had even said there were discussions about people to be voted for that were not Kyle.
Did you write down the quote that Caroline said of Genevieve's?
About the ability, the really good players can see through the noise to see the news.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great compliment for her to give. And I thought, oh, yeah, I think what way to give her a compliment on the way out the door. This is perfect. Good job, Caroline.
Yeah, I was hoping too, but I wasn't. I'm not sure exactly now why she did it, but oh well.
Well, it's a relevant quote, and that's why Probst was highlighting it. Being able to see through the noise to see what the real bottom line is, the news, I guess. You know, what's important, the actual facts. That's critical in a situation like they find themselves in right now.
And just before the vote, Genevieve tells us that she's had to separate Jen the player from Jen the person so that she can be strategic. She's not really, I think she's trying to tell them, I'm not really cold or heartless or, a bot or any of that
It's a little bit of jury management potentially.
Have to do this,
Although if you find yourself continuing to say that, it's probably not the case that you've disengaged.
Were you surprised there was no idols played?
No, I didn't expect anything.
Yeah, I didn't either. But certainly Sue wasn't going to play hers for Kyle. And I couldn't see any advantage to Rachel playing one either, so...
And she's still got 2 more opportunities to use the block a vote, which could be critical, like, when you are at 6, when you've got a potential tie, 3-3.
Unless your other alliance members want to get you out. before you get there.
Well, they don't know that she's loaded up now. She's got that block of vote advantage, which
Well, they
can
know
shift the
that.
numbers, and she has an immunity idol that they don't know about.
That we're aware of, yeah. Okay, the vote is in. 1 for Teeny, 1 for Genevieve, and everybody else for Kyle.
So Kyle voted for Teeny, and Andy voted for Genevieve.
Yeah.
That was surprising, huh?
Don't get
Andy's like,
that.
look, I wanted Genevieve gone. So I'm going to keep that target that, like she said, it's hard to get that threat washed off once you get stamped with it. So he just decided he'd refresh the threat stamp on Genevieve.
Well, it was refreshing to see Kyle take it in stride, get up,
Line
hug
'em up.
everybody,
Yeah.
thank everybody, and
Yeah,
talk
including
about them.
Propes. Yep.
Yep, including Jeff. I'm going to need one of those from you too, Probes.
So sad. I lost my USB. Good guy Kyle is gone.
Yep, he is. Though, when he walked away, I said, I won't be surprised to see Kyle come back. He's exactly the kind of player that Jeff likes.
It's about family. It's about fun. What do kids like? Kids like the
Good
challenges.
in challenges, yep,
Yeah,
yep. And I just wondered if they might throw him into season 50.
Yep, makes sense. Well, I'm sad, but I enjoyed the episode, the events, the journey wasn't annoying. And once again, we see Rachel able to maximize it for strategic potential.
Yep.
She blocked Sam. She blocked Genevieve. She got an advantage that could help her bust a tie effectively or shift the numbers in her favor in a vote. So it's not an extra vote, but she can block somebody else from voting. And they wouldn't necessarily know who it was, although she told 4 other people. So if she ends up using it on one of them, they'll for sure know.
All right, next on Survivor. Who needs men?
I just chuckled when I saw this. The final 4 women, who was that, Teeny declaring? Or
Oh, yeah, right.
Caroline? So we see Caroline, Sue, Rachel, and Teeny carrying a big tree. Yeah, and they declare, who needs men? We got it covered.
Final 4.
Final 4 women, they declare.
Yeah.
And we see Genevieve working on what it most likely is a fake idol. Maybe it's from Sam's expired idol. She's working on with some beads and thread and using her feet and her hands to construct it. She's using her feet to hold it in place.
Yeah, it wasn't looking like much to me. I mean, it was just beads, it looked like, and Sam had a necklace on that had more beads than that in it. But
We hear Sam declare that Andy is the straw that stirs the drink. That sounds like he's trying to be profound, but I don't understand the significance in it.
Just that Andy's the one that keeps trying to stir the pot with everyone.
Okay.
Instead of doing what he says, he's just always stirring the pot, stirring the pot.
And then we see in a confessional Sam saying, this is what I've been waiting for. And then fist bump with Genevieve. And Andy's declaring this is going to be the biggest heist of Survivor. And then some odd comment that's not exactly clear from Genevieve that says, if this works, I will die.
Well, somebody said everything's got to go perfect. Who said that?
I think that might have been Andy.
Anyway,
Some plan they're hatching.
Kyle tells us he was proud of himself and he was sure his family would be too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to be one of the most beloved players of the new era.
Well, everybody did seem to like him. Everyone was all smiles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was anyone that didn't like him. They didn't want to keep him because they did like him.
Yeah, it didn't exactly add up. They didn't see him as a social threat in any way, but they didn't want to compete against him either. They just wanted to make some room so other people would have opportunities in the immunity challenges.
I think it was Gabe that said, he's such a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think even if he's not a strategic threat, they don't view him that way, everybody likes him.
So he's there. There's that aspect of the social
Yes.
threat.
Absolutely. People have won before just because people liked him or they disliked somebody else that was there.
That's more significant
It's
in a lot
like
of
it's
cases.
a more not them than a vote for you.
Yeah.
But you get to win because I'm not voting for them. So,
Yep.
but, you know, I could see if Kyle were there, it'd be pretty hard not to give the nice guy, and especially if he happened to end up against somebody that they were not happy with.
When it comes down to the results part, though, when the jury's hitting them with the questions, what did you do? How did you, you know, is there anything that you can say
I won
about?
a lot of challenges to get myself in.
Yeah, and that's just not enough. That's not
And
enough in
maybe
the bank.
It was on the bottom of my tribe for a long time and still got here, so I did something.
Or someone else did something on your behalf.
Maybe.
How about a JSFL update?
I can do that. John R. is still in first with 53 points. There were 58 people, including Stacy, who lost their USB. 88
So sad.
people gained a safe point. And their,
Vote out point, you mean?
lost a safe point.
Oh, okay.
88 people lost a safe point. 74 people earned a vote off point.
Hard managing those safe points now as we get closer and closer to the end.
Stop rubbing it in.
That was bold, very bold, to have Kyle safe.
Who had Kyle safe?
Well, you said 88 people, right?
Oh, okay. I see what you say.
You're struggling.
sorry.
She tested positive for flu today, and she has an ear infection. So
And sinus.
yeah,
So, yeah, and I've already taken my meds. So, okay, I'm a little out of it, but hanging in. For the side challengers, with 47, Jeremiah's still in first. 46 is Justin. 45, Rebecca. 44, Robert. 42, Anderson and Lisa Ray. 41, Stacy. And with 39, Parker's still in the basement.
all right. Thank you, Parker. Good job, bud. We appreciate you.
For sure you do.
Absolutely. It's my buffer.
Yep.
Well, we look forward to hearing what you thought about this episode, the sequence of events. How does this affect your perception of the different castaways? You think Sue is a goat? Is Teeny a goat? Is Teeny getting strategic credit? Does she still have social credit? I can't tell where she fits. I'm curious what everybody's thinking about the castaways. If you'd like to join us in the next listener feedback show, you can call and leave a voicemail 206-350-1547, toll free 844-643-8737. You can record your own audio and attach it to an email, or you can type it up in an email if you're not comfortable having your voice out there, and send it to Joanne and Stacy Show at gmail.com, and either Joanne or I will read it into the show notes into the episode on your behalf. Feedback's due noon Eastern time now on Saturdays. That's 9 a.m. Pacific. And we ask that you keep it in that 3-minute range. So how did your assessment of the castaways change after this week's episode? Who's impressing you the most? Who do you think's playing the best? And who's in jeopardy being voted out next? I guess the obvious answer would be Genevieve, but is that underdog alliance going to hold? We shall see. Look forward to hearing from you. Anything else?
Not for me.
Have a good one. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.